Just moments after the robbery, he accused police of letting the bandits go.
Glover was hardwired to never back down against an enemy, no matter how bad the odds appeared. He burned down his cell at Australia's most secure prison, Goulburn Supermax, which is reserved for only the most dangerous prisoners.
In this video, we look at the criminal mind of Reynold Glover and how an accidental confession landed him in jail for more than 20 years, and at the one-man war he waged against a feared Sydney crime boss.
This is the site of the Cove Chubb base, and it's where the armed robbers got their biggest score. On April 20, 2009, they infiltrated this base. The robbers used a ladder to scale a fence, and then they went and hid amongst some boxes. And when a truck was moved into position to do its daily runs, they pounced. They grabbed a guard, held him at gunpoint, and forced him to drive the truck through the fence. They drove down Mowbray Road, where a stolen Audi was waiting to be used as a getaway car. They loaded the cash in the car, and one of the armed robbers fired shots at the Chubb security guards that were running down the street after them. All up, they collected more than $2 million in cash. By the time the police arrived, the robbers were long gone.
In 2013, Reynold Glover made a mistake that helped put him in jail for almost 3 decades. After being acquitted of the $6 million armed robberies, Glover visited his friend, gangster Blau Houcher, at Lithgow Jail. During 2 visits, Glover told his friend that he'd shot a family member of gangster Bassem Hamzy, that he'd held up a cash-in-transit van at Glebe, and that he'd also committed perjury in his armed robbery trial. He was jailed for all of it.
We'll go in there, any guy that was there, that was 10 boys there, we're knocking every single one of them.
More was learnt about Glover during this period via the recording. This included that Glover was hardwired to never back down against an enemy, no matter how bad the odds appeared. Like when he waged a one-man war against Hamzy's family after the crime boss's cousin stole $5,000 from Glover's mother. He also agreed to take on Houcher's younger brother as an apprentice and teach him the finer points of how to commit an armed robbery. The pair then held up a cash-in-transit van outside Broadway Shopping Centre. Glover knocked off the robbery and then made it to a scheduled court appearance that he was due to appear in for another case that morning. He also admitted to committing perjury to get acquitted in the $6 million armed robbery trial. The recordings also revealed valuable underworld gossip for police. Like Glover claiming to have been hired as part of a crew to commit a pseudoephedrine heist for a crime figure, and that he planned to knock an associate who'd been talking shit about his gang. Glover was arrested the night he left the second prison visit on March 10, 2013. It was the last time he would be a free man. Police uncovered more critical evidence when they raided his home and found the pistol used to shoot Hamzy's family member. Back in jail, Glover and Hamzy eventually bumped into each other, and they didn't miss the opportunity to fight, albeit restricted by chains and prison guards. When the pair were being led past each other, the 2 men eyed each other and said, "Let's do this." Glover landed back in Australia's most secure prison, Goulburn Supermax, which is reserved for only the most dangerous prisoners. But the jail recordings revealed that Glover might have been happy about this. He told Houcher in 2013, "It's the best jail, yeah, the best. I loved it there."
This is the Meriton Chevron complex on Broome Street in Waterloo, in inner Sydney. It was the site of a major police breakthrough into the investigation into the armed robberies. So just hours after more than $2 million was stolen from the raid on the Cove Chubb base on April 20, 2009, a maintenance worker who arrived at work early that morning found Chubb dockets and documents on the floor of the car park. He picked them up, wondering what they were and what they were doing there. Later that day, he saw a report in the Daily Telegraph about the robberies, and he wondered whether the two were linked. It turns out his instincts were right. He handed them to police, but that left them to answer the question of what was the link between this apartment complex and the robberies. And it turned out the answer was a drug dealer that we can only legally name as Mr. X. Mr. X had an arrangement where he used empty apartments in this complex to store drugs and guns. And after his arrest, he told police that he also allowed the armed robbers to use one of the apartments as a safe house to count the cash that had been stolen.
After Glover was jailed for perjury, prosecutors made an unprecedented move to attempt to force Glover and his 3 co-accused to stand trial over the $6 million armed robberies for a second time. But the move was abandoned after Glover had a partial win in his appeal against the perjury conviction. If there's one quote that sums up Glover and his attitude to staying on top of his enemies, it's what he told the police after he burned down his cell at Australia's most secure prison, Goulburn Supermax. "That's who I am," Glover told the police. Say someone slaps you, you're not just going to let them keep slapping you. You're going to do something, otherwise they're going to keep getting you. You've got to stop it.